Welcome back to another edition of the Wolverine.com podcast. This is our post-game version a day later at on3.com. Welcome, folks, to the Wolverine.com on On3. Doug Skene, I don't think has set up his new account yet. I'm going to have your wife do that for you, apparently. But we'll get you taken care of. So, tough one on Saturday. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. And the interesting thing is, and I was thinking about this, man. A lot of things had to go wrong for them to lose that game. And I was trying to think of a game it reminded me of. And I'm thinking this must be how Notre Dame fans felt after that night game with Michigan, with Denard Robinson, when Michigan kind of came back from way down, probably got outplayed for a substantial portion of that game. The breaks, they fumbled. I forget who the quarterback was. Clayton's back there. He's probably thinking right now, God, how can you forget that? But the kid drops the ball, when it looks like Notre Dame's getting ready to score, the quarterback, and things like that. Stupid things happen. You get caught. And we'll talk about this defensively, running onto the field when you've got timeouts and you're not set, and it leads directly to 2 touchdowns. This, that, and the other. But the bottom line is Skene, as they had every opportunity to win this game, and they didn't get it done.
The opportunities that I will remember about this game, obviously there's a few things. You're not going to beat Michigan State at Michigan State when you let their running back go for the best performance against Michigan football in the history of the series. You're not going to beat them. That'll be one memory I'll have from this game. And hats off to that kid. He's as good as advertised. And then the other thing is Balas. I think it was like the second, certainly by the third time we were kicking field goals instead of touchdowns. If you're going to win a tough road game, you'd better be scoring touchdowns. Field goals in that first half, I don't remember how many we had, but I just kept saying to myself, field goals are not going to get it done here. And in the end, they didn't.
Yeah, Jason Avant once said after a 13-9 loss, I believe it was, at Ohio State, after the game, he said field goals don't win games. Yeah, and he was absolutely right. And at the same time, 552 yards. And you look at the metrics, man, the third down conversions, you look at the special teams, the hidden yards, everything in their favor. Key mistakes and red zone deficiencies again. That is something they need to get figured out. A couple of head scratching calls, and we'll get to that as well. A holding call where the flag comes out after the play again. I can't tell you how many times I've seen that where, okay, play over, has no bearing on the play. Here comes the flag. That would have been a 1st and goal for Michigan inside the 5, I believe, with Cornelius Johnson. So at the same time, good teams, great teams overcome those mistakes. So, but to me, the biggest concern, I guess, was the lack of preparation for the tempo. And we've given Mike McDonald his props. Michigan was second in the nation in scoring defense. We said this is the most balanced offense they're going to be facing. They have to stop the run. They didn't do that. And you've got timeouts. And as the head coach, for example, when half your defense is running out on the field and isn't set, and Michigan State's getting ready to snap the ball, and you got 3 timeouts left with 5 minutes to go in the half or whatever it is, you call it. So you need to be better at that. And I'm not saying that Mike McDonald can't learn. He's a first-year coordinator. But to me, that's been happening way too often. And you cannot have that substitution problem here at this point in the season or ever, frankly.
No, you can. And I think what you're beating around the bush out of here, Balas, and maybe not beating the bush. Michigan got outcoached again, second year in a row. They got outcoached. And you just evidenced it by how the Michigan State offense had Michigan's defense on its heels. There was no adjustment to it. We go into the halftime, and then the confidence level with the field goals, and then what we saw, the way the game played out, clearly Michigan State made some halftime adjustments with their offense and found some things to have some success with. And defensively, we're still trying to figure out how we want to do what we want to do, even though the offense on the field with Michigan State is not allowing us to do it. And in the end, they wore us down, and that kid ran crazy and free there, Walker, with the historic day. So I think it is what it is. And for the second year in a row, Michigan's coaching staff got beat by the Michigan State coaching staff, and credit to the Spartans for doing so. And it's frustrating for us Michigan fans to say, how does this happen? Because we were doing so many good things. Cade McNamara was having the game of his life, and we got, wonderful young players coming out. Anthony out there on the edge, and all of a sudden it's like, hey, look at all this we found a guy who's stepping up. Guys are stepping up, doing their thing. But in the end, when it was all said and done, The old stat of the Michigan State game still holds true. The team that runs the football usually wins, and Michigan State did much better than we did in that football game, and that's why they won.
Yeah, why did Michigan have so much trouble? And it wasn't really trouble. They averaged, I think, 4.3 yards per rush, or the backs averaged 4 yards a carry, but they didn't do a great job, obviously, moving the ball on the ground. What did you see up front, and what did you see from the Michigan State defense? Obviously, the passing game was working, but the running game wasn't quite as good as it needed to be.
Yeah, we weren't clean, Balas, and we'll break down some of these things. We were not as clean as we needed to be at the point of attack, and oftentimes it was one guy who just got beat on his one block. And maybe was a little bit too high, out of position. I know there was a third down. I think it was one of the critical third downs going into the north end zone there at Michigan State. Stuber got beat across his face, and then the front side linebacker there, number 27 for Michigan State, came up and made the play unblocked. And it was like a 3rd and 2. And I thought, how is that possible? 3rd and 2, we don't block a frontside linebacker because Haskins was going right at him. Well, on that play design, Schoonmaker was lined up in the backfield, and he was trying to loop around the the tackle and left guard to come find that frontside linebacker. Well, he's out of position, and he's already 2 yards in the backfield. And so, schematically, I had to question, why are we doing that instead of having Schoonmaker at the line of scrimmage and combo blocking from the down lineman to linebacker instead of doing some cute little get around the backfield and find the open avenue? We didn't get there. And that kid made a tackle in the hole, and all of a sudden it's 4th down. So those kinds of things.
And back with us, Doug Skene, right in the middle. Look, what'd you do? Is change your shirt? What the hell just happened? what the heck just happened? So
I had to change sets. I had to go to a different set.
Yeah, with the makeup, you look better too, man. Maybe the makeup tech, got you looking good. So you look skinnier too. I don't know if maybe it's
wow. How about that?
Yeah,
I've lost 20 pounds in the last 5 minutes.
Exactly. Congratulations. So anyway, we were talking about obviously we were talking about the play, and there was one thing, the running plays, and there's one thing that I've noticed is that when they go tempo, when they go 3rd down and they're trying to catch teams off guard, they usually get stoned. Somebody's missing an assignment, and I don't know if you've noticed that, but they're rushing to the line, and I'm thinking, you know what? You've got the guys up front. You've got you don't need to do that. Just line up and let guys go where they need to go. Do your combo blocks, get your 2 yards. To me, that has not worked this year.
Yeah, historically, unless you've got a veteran line that's worked a ton, and I mean years together, that hurry, get down to the line of scrimmage, that throws offensive linemen out of their routine oftentimes. And so linemen kind of get in a cadence. You get to that line of scrimmage and you're used to kind of settling in. You kind of look to your right, look to your left, look at the feet of the linebackers up in front of you. When you hurry to the line of scrimmage and it's the fire drill, mentality up there, it throws a lot of that stuff off. And that's when you get false starts, you get bad steps, and you can make mistakes. But we were talking about, once again, the 3rd and short yardage and goal line effectiveness of this Michigan team they've been good at times and other times not so good. And there were a few snaps in that Michigan State game where not good enough. And some of it was just execution at the front, at the point of attack, with the way we just got beat at the line of scrimmage. But there was at least one snap where it's like, why are we trying to do this schematically instead of get your hand in the ground and knock people off the ball? So, that whole kind of getting cute to try to find a yard or two, sometimes it doesn't work.
Yeah, I don't like it. And again, too many mistakes at critical times. If you look at, what is it, 3rd and 1 or 4th and 1, where a guy jumps and, things like that, drop passes, the Blake Corum drop. Let's be honest, this should have been a 45 to 20 something game, honestly, if we're thinking about it, if you play a clean game and you do well, having your freshman quarterback in the game. And I know Jim Harbaugh said that Cade McNamara was working through something at that point. But for God's sake, I can't tell you how many times all week when people were like, you got to throw J.J. McCarthy in there, and that's the only way you're going to win this game. No, it's just not going to happen. And more than likely, the kid's going to make a big mistake, which is exactly what happened. So, but they just can't get out of their own way at times. And to me, it comes back to they just don't have that championship DNA. And I was talking to some former linemen about this, that, hey, at some point you've got to figure out how to win these games and then have them build on each other and build on itself. Otherwise, you're just going to be doing the same movie every year.
Yeah, back to the Corum. The Corum drop early in that game, it felt like that drop really affected him the rest of that game.
Yes.
I thought his body language, the look in his eyes, and again, we're watching it on television, but he didn't seem to get going anywhere with any kind of momentum at all and didn't have that pep like he usually does. It seems like that drop really affected him in a negative way, and that's unfortunate because he's a good player. But you're right, Balas. The reality is at this point, at this time, that this team in these moments still against ranked teams, when the game is on the line, whatever it is, we have a hard time winning these games. But in this one, you can look back and it's real simple: rushing defense and kicking field goals instead of scoring touchdowns. Cade McNamara was throwing some unbelievable footballs out there, and I thought, okay, you're going to bring McCarthy in and do his thing. That's cool. That's all fine and great. The one pass he did have to Anthony that was the touchdown, I think McNamara makes that same exact play. It looked like McNamara could have been the one doing it. And
Yep.
we know, and you and I have talked about this, when you put a true freshman out there, and we get all excited about what JJ does out there when he has the football, but it's still, to me, it still looks a little too high school football-ish, where he's trying to get away with things that he did in high school.
Yep.
And it doesn't work on a Big Ten field. And so he made the critical mistake, as it was, identified there on television. It was a bad handoff. The ball's on the ground, and all of a sudden that's all it takes to lose a football game in the Big Ten on the road against a team like that. And so these are the growing pains that you get. If you're going to put a true freshman out there, he's going to make the mistakes. And we hadn't seen one that was game costly enough up until Saturday, but we knew it was coming. It just happened at one of the worst times ever.
Yeah, and it was a giveaway, and that's the sad reality of it. The way Cade McNamara had been playing, and give him credit for leading that field goal drive after Michigan State had all the momentum, and it was 30-30. You're thinking if he's in that game there, they might drive and put this thing away. You're thinking 40-30 or something like that, but wasn't meant to be. It is interesting. I had some guy. You get angry message board fans texting you after games or making comments. And they were blaming Cade McNamara for the loss. And if they'd only played JJ, and you have to go with JJ the rest of the way. And I'm like thinking this might be the dumbest take I've ever heard. And said, what throw did Cade McNamara make that JJ couldn't make? And I said, you don't get it. It has nothing to do with it. Can he make that throw? It's will he make that throw? Will he go through those progressions? McNamara played an outstanding game with the exception of the one pick. There was a pass interference on a fourth down play that should have been called that could have kept the drive alive on a 4th and 3 as well. He didn't get some breaks. I still don't think his receivers are doing him enough favors. God bless Andrell Anthony, because he looks like the best receiver on that team, the best pure receiver on that team in terms of route running, hands, high pointing the ball, which is crazy. Where's this kid been all year, right? So, and that bodes well for the future. But to me, I thought this kid played his guts out and answered a lot of questions and critics on Saturday.
Well, and the future is now, Balas. The future is still this season. As painful as it is to lose to Michigan State in the way we did, the reality is that the way this season is going to go, and it's cliche-ish, I understand, Michigan still has its goals right here in front of them. You drop the red letter game to your rival, and that sucks. And it looks all too familiar to us Michigan fans. And Jim Harbaugh is now, 3-4 against Michigan State. Probably should be like 6-1, somewhere in there. 5-2, whatever. But he's not. The reality is he's not. So has a hard time beating the Spartans. And again, hats off to Coach Tucker at Michigan State. He's done an unbelievable job. That guy's going to be probably National Coach of the Year if they keep going the way they're going. But the way this season is going to come down here in the back half in November, everything is right here for Michigan to do what it typically has not done, which is go win tough road games and beat Ohio State. It's right here, all in the next 4 weeks. And so it's still there. It can be done. The problem is there's no history of this team and this program and this head coach being able to get it done. And
No.
Saturday was another example of, well, it was right there and it slipped out of your hands yet again. Why does this keep happening? Well, you got outcoached again. What are you going to do differently to get not outcoached the next time? So they've got the players. And this quarterback, Cade McNamara, is the starting quarterback from Michigan. Kid played great football Saturday. He gives us the best chance to win. It doesn't mean JJ is not a great thing for the future. Bodes well for us, obviously. but he's still got to get rid of that high school habit stuff so that you don't make the critical mistakes. And we're not there yet with him. So, but the future is exciting with him. Right now, it's all about Cade McNamara and this offense getting a little bit cleaner and a little bit tighter and a little bit better. And these coaches putting them in situations where they can do the best that they can do. And in the end, you cannot let one running back score 5 touchdowns and run for 200 yards. You're not going to win any games if you let that happen.
And 2 of them were gifts when they weren't set. And they were basically running, 11 blockers against 6 or 7, literally 2 plays. And I asked Hayden Hutchinson about this in the post game. I said, is it fair to say that you guys, basically gifted them a couple by not having the personnel on the field? And why the heck aren't you calling a timeout? Makes no sense to me whatsoever when you had plenty to do to give. So unbelievable. So you hit the nail on the head, though, when talking about the goals for this team. I like the resolve of this team. I really do. I can't say they deserved a better fate, even with the calls that went against them, because they made too many mistakes in that game. Again, they should have won that one comfortably. And I think most people, even a lot of Michigan State fans, would acknowledge it. Didn't, shoulda, coulda, woulda is the same thing, right? So, but I think the leadership on this team and the guys in that room, it would not surprise me at all if they went up to Penn State and won. We'll see how they respond against Indiana. It's a 2-6 team. They better take care of business in a night game. But to me, it would not stun me at all if they rebounded and went into that Ohio State game with 1 loss.
1 loss, and then do we think Michigan State's going to go into Columbus and win? Do we think Michigan State can get beat by Penn State? I think we obviously we need Michigan State to lose twice. There's a real chance that happens. So
yeah. Oh, by the way, Skene, 2.5 point favorite at Purdue this weekend, Michigan State. So you never know, man.
I would be, I don't know, the old years. It feels like, I'd be shocked if Michigan State lost this week, but it would be this
shocked
the kind of way. I would be, Balas. I think.
Let me ask you this though. They've got a horseshoe in their rear end. They should have 3 losses this year, if we're being honest. Nebraska,
but they don't. But they don't.
But right, exactly. And it reminds me a lot of that Brady Hoke 2011 season, where it's kind of got a smoke and mirrors feeling to it, where you're giving up 500 and something yards and everything's going right. A guy punts to the wrong guy or whatever, and I'm not in any way, shape, or form negating what Tucker and those guys have done with the transfer portal and everything else this year. What I am saying is that at some point your luck's bound to run out. So shocking, I think it's too strong a word.
Here's the other side of that coin, right? You say, well, they should be this, they should be that. If you're a Michigan State player or coach, you see this as great resolve and grit. They just find a way to win. That's what this team believes, and we saw that Saturday with the Michigan State team. They're like, well, they didn't get phased. They didn't lose their cool. They just kept playing, and then they found a way to win. And so that's why I say I'd be shocked if they went down to Purdue and lost. They've got something going up there now. They're number 4 or 5 in the country. So I don't think we're going to see the collapse. I think the years of Michigan State beating Michigan and then going on and throwing a big old who cares to the rest of their season, I don't think that's this year's Michigan State team. So
I didn't suggest that. I want to be clear. I did not suggest that. What I mean is that.
And I understand.
Okay.
I understand.
Right.
But what I'm saying is,
the breaks even out.
Do I think Michigan State has the game to go into Columbus and win? I don't think so. I'd pick Ohio State in that game. Michigan State versus Penn State. That Penn State's defense is really good. And so anyway, the whole point of this, Balas, is that, like you and I've said, it's right still here for the taking. The chips are going to fall, and there's a really, really good chance that when Ohio State comes to Ann Arbor, everything is right there for the taking. It's going to take an unbelievably clean game at that point for us to beat Ohio State, and that'll be a tall challenge. Right now, with the way Michigan's played, they're not going to beat Ohio State. Not the way we just saw them play. They're going to have to do several things better in order to beat the Buckeyes. But that's in a few weeks from now, 3 or 4 weeks from now, whatever it is. But this team still has a chance. And I'm with you. I don't think this game derails everything and it falls to pieces. That would be a great disappointment if that happened. And so, in spite of the fact that we lost this game, it wasn't as if it was the darkest years where Michigan State is rubbing our nose in it and laughing at us throughout the course of the entire game. But we still haven't found a way to get up over the top and beat these guys. And for that reason, Michigan State deserves the credit. They beat us.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, I think that there was a lot to like about the passing game where you're like, okay, they can throw the ball. And granted, Michigan State's not a great pass defense team. Ohio State's probably better in that area, although Oregon shredded them at times as well. So there are some things where you look at that and you say, okay, maybe. Maybe they're going to be able to score the points to hang at least with Ohio State this year. Who knows? But they got to get better defensively. To me, Mike McDonald, I'm not going to say he was exposed, but it was certainly a learning experience for him because some of the things that went wrong just can't happen, and that's exactly what we saw. So, Skene, I appreciate it. We'll do some in the trenches plays tonight, and we'll have that up later in the week. Welcome to On Three, buddy. We are glad you came with us and turned down all those other offers from competitors to stick with the Wolverine.com, still the Wolverine.com, and glad you're on board.
All right, Balas. Good to be here, and go Blue.